I declare the 2015 World Journalist Conference is now open. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hong Ji-sun, and I'm a journalist from Arirang TV, Korea's English broadcaster. I'm very honored to serve as the MC of today's opening ceremony. I would like to extend sincere gratitude to all participants and those of you who flew a long way to get here in Seoul. It is an honor to have your presence here at this ceremony. Before the conference proceeds, we would like to express sincere sorrow that the Seoul ferry disaster had happened, which took the lives of more than 300 people, which was a year ago. So in Korea, we take this week to commemorate the memory of the accident and the victims. Before I begin with the 60th World Journalist Conference, may I propose a moment of silence to honor and pay respect to the Seoul ferry disaster victims. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask you please stand up and close your eyes for a silent prayer for just a few seconds. May I propose that you close your eyes and pay a silent prayer for the 304 victims who were killed in the disaster for a few seconds, please. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you can now be seated. And thank you so much for all your kind sympathy. And now we shall get down to business for the World Conference. Marking the third anniversary this year, the 2015 World Journalist Conference is being held under the theme of the 70th anniversary of National Division. Think about unification on the Korean Peninsula. We have gathered here to build wider consensus on the necessity of reunification of Korea, which is now the only divided country on earth. We also prepare today's gathering in such a way that can be a venue of debate so that we can cope with the current situation where journalists around the world are faced with terror on journalism. And I would like to say that personally it is a great honor and I'm overjoyed to be here serving as the MC for such an important event like this. Now let us commence with the main portion of our ceremony for the 2015 World Journalist Conference. More than 80 journalists from 60 different countries around the world are attending this conference, and it is our hope that it will serve as a forum of communication and rapport for the participants and that they will find value in this time, ruminating on their roles and privileges as journalists representing their home countries. Now let me introduce you to today's distinguished guests who joined us at this opening ceremony. First, please welcome Mr. Kim Jong-duk, who is the Minister of Culture, Sports, and Tourism. Thank you. And next, please welcome Mr. Kim Byung-ho, who is the chairman of the Korea Press Foundation. Now is the time for the celebratory remarks from Kim Byung-ho, who is the president of the Press Foundation. He is one of the most renowned and respected persons in the Korea press community. And next up, we have Mr. Yeo Sang-lak, who is the honorary chairman of SGI Korea, also present today. And now is the time to let me introduce you to our distinguished participants from abroad. First, Mr. Jim Bumela, President of the International Federation of Journalists, has joined us here today. Please welcome with a warm round of applause. And next we have Ms. Jasmina Popovic, Vice President of the International Federation of Journalists, has graced this occasion with her presence. And the Journalists Association of Korea has maintained positive relationships with counterparts in 4 different countries. With us this morning are representatives of the 4 countries. It is my pleasure to introduce each of them to you this morning. First, Mr. Zhang Yong, his last name is Zhang, Deputy Director General for External Relations of the People's Daily, has joined us on behalf of President Tan Chong-min of All China Journalists Association. This association was the first to begin regular exchanges with the Korean Association back in 1993. And Van Hong Nguyen, Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Kum Ho Chi Minh City Bureau Chief, is present on behalf of the President Tuan Hu of the Vietnam Journalists Association. We have extended exchanges for more than 20 years with the Korean Association. Next, please welcome Mr. Teguh Santosa, who is the Chairman of Foreign Affairs in Persatuan Wartawan, Indonesia. He is here to represent the President Marjono Hadi Marjono of Persatuan Wartawan, Indonesia. Its regular exchange with the Korean Association goes back to 2013. And now let me introduce Mr. Galarid Badamuchir, who is the President of the Confederation of Mongolian Journalists, who we have started exchanges last year. And next we have Ms. Zineskanka Tsukova Todorova Fedotova. She is the President of the Union of Bulgarian Journalists, who is here today. We began exchanges this year. And now is the time to welcome Mr. Chong-Gyu Song, who is the Deputy President of Journalists Association of Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Now I am very honored to introduce Mr. Park Jong-Nul, who is the President of the Journalists Association of Korea, the host of this conference. May I ask all of you to give him another round of applause for presenting this event, please. Distinguished participants, have you ever heard of the Journalists Association of Korea? This association was established earlier than any other Korean press associations and has 200 news agencies and about 10,000 active reporters as its members. We have a following video clip which would give you a better understanding of it. Here goes the introductory video clip.
A sentence that records history. Images that deliver reality of the scene. Journalists who are passionately seeking the truth as their calling. And always standing behind them is the Journalists Association of Korea. The Journalists Association of Korea was established on August 17, 1964, through the active bond of sympathy of frontline journalists. Since its foundation, the association has advocated 5 codes of conduct, which are the democratic development of Korea, the improvement of journalists, the protection of freedom of speech, the promotion of friendship amongst the association's members, the achievement of peaceful reunification and homogeneity between North and South Korea, and the strengthening of ties with journalists around the world. The Journalists Association of Korea is the nation's biggest media body, boasting a current membership of over 200 company members and 10,000 individual journalists. The association delivers 50,000 copies of its weekly paper across the nation to present various key issues and viable alternatives. Also, the Journalists Association of Korea makes efforts to enhance capabilities of journalists by hosting various forums and seminars and providing reporters with financial support for short or long-term training programs or studies at domestic graduate schools. The association established the Korea Press Fund in order to boost job security and welfare for journalists, thereby restoring public journalism. We present the annual Korea Journalist Award, which is the most prestigious and long-standing award in Korea's journalism, as well as the Award for Journalists of the Month. By doing so, we raise the morale of frontline journalists and encourage them to write quality articles, initiating efforts for the press to regain trust of the public. At the same time, with a view to bolster the public role of the press, we have steadily engaged in the so-called talent donation by sending reporters to elementary, middle, and high schools. We also make donations for less fortunate neighbors every year. To give students a chance to deepen their thinking, we host national students' essay contests. To boost members' unity and friendship, we hold national reporters' soccer competitions and reporters' climbing contests every year. From early on, the Journalists Association of Korea realized the significance of strengthening ties with journalists around the world. Upon such realization, the association joined the International Federation of Journalists as a regular member in 1966. At its general meeting in 2013, President Park Jong-il of the Journalists Association of Korea was elected a member of the Executive Committee for a 3-year term. With this election, the association seeks to serve a bigger role in the international community. The Journalists Association of Korea mutually dispatched reporter delegation with the All China Journalists Association in 1993, the Vietnam Journalists Association in 1994, the Indonesian Journalists Association in 2013, and the Confederation of Mongolian Journalists last year, and have since engaged in regular exchanges with each of them. This year we are working on starting exchange with the Union of Bulgarian Journalists. Regular exchanges with reporters from these countries are role model cases in people-to-people diplomacy beyond conventional diplomacy and greatly contribute to harmony and improvement in bilateral relations. Looking forward, we hope to expand our network with more journalists from foreign countries. In addition, the Journalists Association of Korea successfully hosted the IFJ's general meeting for the first time in Asia back in 2001, as well as the East Asia Journalists Forum in 2003, the Asia Journalists Forum in 2005, and the IFJ Special General Meeting in 2007. We also held a conference with journalists from Korea, China, and Vietnam in 2012. Today, we again host the World Journalist Conference, following the conferences in 2013 and 2014. Especially as this year marks the 70th anniversary of the National Division of the Korean Peninsula, it is our hope that signs of peace and unification will show on the peninsula through the event. On a related note, while currently at a standstill, the association is pushing for continuous exchange with North Korean reporters in order to accelerate ushering in the era of unification and harmony between the South and the North. Mr. Park Jong-il, the 44th President of the Journalists Association of Korea, and the Executive Department are determined to communicate with the public, realize social justice, and closely monitor those who have power and authorities with keen eyes. Also, we will demonstrate journalism in which we stand by the less privileged with warm heart. Also, we will take the lead in the efforts for our members' rights and welfare, as well as our people's grand unity. To this end, we will continue to strengthen ties with international outlets and build reliable friendships in the process. And we will prepare for what lies ahead with constant reform and innovation. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the film and hope you now know more about the activities and roles of the Journalists Association of Korea in this era of global journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, will you give the Journalists Association of Korea another big hand, please? And next we have Mr. Park Jong-il, who is the host of the 2015 World Journalist Conference and the president of the Journalists Association of Korea, who will deliver the opening address. He became the president after the election where roughly 10,000 reporters cast their vote. Now he is serving his second term. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Yeah, dear journalists of the world who are visiting Korea, I welcome all of you. My name is Park Jong-il. I'm president of Journalists Association of Korea. Let me begin by thanking you for your moment of silence to pray for the victims of Sewol Ferry disaster. I'm not sure if you know that April 16th marks the first anniversary of the Sewol Ferry disaster that left more than 300 killed last year in Korea. And this week is a time of remembrance for those who lost their lives all over the country. So I want you to know, Korean people are in still sorrow. Now shall we get down to business? This year marks the 51st anniversary of the Journalists Association of Korea. The association has the longest history among Korean journalist organizations and is the biggest journalist organization with a proud membership of 10,000 frontline journalists. With us here today are especially Kim Jong-dak, Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism, and Kim Byung-ho, Chairman of the Korea Press Foundation. I believe Minister Kim's presence signifies to you a warm welcome by Korean government and the special meaning of this conference. And I'd like to personally thank to my friend Jean Pamela, President of IFJ, and Jasmina, Vice President of IFJ, for making time in his busy tour to give a congratulatory speech on World Journalist Conference. About 100 journalists from 60 countries are gathered at this World Journalist Conference with the same vision. They are from all 5 continents, including from Asia, America, Africa, Europe to Oceania. As the host of this conference, the JAK is grateful to all of you for your participation, and we will do our best to make this conference meaningful and successful. Those who are here today are different in many aspects, such as nationality, gender, skin color, religion, and ideology. But we have one important thing in common. We are all journalists. We uncover the truth, keep an eye on corrupt regimes, and work hard to make the world free and peaceful as a journalist. The theme of this conference is the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation and division. Think about unification on Korean Peninsula. Especially this year marks 70 years of division on the Korean Peninsula. The theme aims to create opportunities to talk about unification through the global network among journalists, while expecting peaceful unification on the peninsula, as journalists are gathered together in the only divided country in the world. The demilitarized zone, or DMZ, is just 1 hour away from here. The DMZ is the place of conflicts where the North and South are pointing guns at each other. During this conference, you will be able to visit the DMZ to see the importance of peace and the unification on the Korean Peninsula. As you may well know, freedom of speech has been under threat through a number of accidents, including a terror attack on Charlie Hebdo early this year. Indeed, only last year, 118 journalists are estimated to be killed around the world. During this event, a conference will be held under the theme of freedom of press and safety in journalism to have discussion on solutions for relentless attacks on journalists in the world. In addition, as part of the program, you will visit the second largest city in Korea, Busan, and Daegu, where the World Water Forum being held. This will help you seeing rising status of Korea in the global arena while experiencing traditional culture from the 5,000-year history. You will also be able to witness high technology of Korea, making the country one of the economic powerhouse in the world. Wherever they are, journalists are the messenger of correct and true news and the protector of universal values of human beings, such as freedom, democracy, and human rights. I hope the World Journalist Conference could become the opportunity to share friendship and remind you of the true meaning of journalism, so we can think about the meaning of unification, integration, communication, and reconciliation. The Journalist Association of Korea will continue to host the World Journalist Conference in the future annually to allow journalists of the world to learn more about Korea. After you return home, I hope you will take what you have experienced here in Korea and inform others in your country. I hope all of you feel at home and stay healthy during conference period. Please heighten your understanding of Korea by being open to all aspects of this country. Finally, I'd like to ask a favor. You will find the text of Declaration for a Peaceful Unification of Korea and Freedom of Speech on your desk. I ask you now to adopt the declaration with applause. Please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, let's give Ms. President Park another big hand for a George session. Next, on behalf of the Korean government, Minister of Culture, Sports, and Tourism, Minister Kim Jong-duk will give his congratulatory address. Please welcome the speaker with a big round of applause.
여러분 안녕하십니까? 대한민국 문화체육관광부 장관 김종덕입니다. 먼저 2015년 세계 기자대회 개최를 진심으로 축하드리며 대한민국을 찾아주신 진보멜라 국제기자연맹 회장님과 세계 각국의 기자 여러분을 진심으로 환영합니다. 아울러 이번 세계 기자대회를 준비하신 한국기자협회 박종률 회장님의 노고에도 감사를 드립니다. 세계 각국에서 참석하신 언론인 여러분, 우리 민족이 남북으로 분단된 지 올해 70년입니다. 이제 한반도의 평화와 통일은 남과 북의 문제를 넘어 한반도 주변 국가, 동북아시아와 세계의 평화를 위해서 전 세계가 함께 고민해야 할 문제입니다. 세계 유일의 분단 국가로서 남북이 화합하여 한반도의 평화 통일을 위해 노력해야 할 이때 세계 각국의 언론인들이 모여 분단 70년 한반도의 통일을 생각한다를 주제로 컨퍼런스를 개최하게 된 것은 큰 의미가 아닐 수 없습니다. 이번 자리가 한반도의 평화와 통일을 위한 방안을 활발히 토론하는 장이 되길 바랍니다. 이번 세계 기자대회에는 1950년 한국전쟁 당시 유엔 참전국이었던 국가의 기자들도 함께하고 있습니다. 참혹한 전쟁 가운데 종군 기자들의 빛나는 활약이 있었듯이 지금도 지구촌 곳곳에서는 위험을 무릅쓰고 진실을 밝히기 위해 노력하는 기자들의 용기가 세계 평화에 크게 기여하고 있습니다. 진실을 알고자 하는 그것은 바로 기자의 중요한 소명입니다. 그리고 이것은 언론의 자유가 보장되었을 때 비로소 실현 가능한 것입니다. 이번 대회에서는 언론인들에 대한 테러를 방지하고 자유로운 취재활동을 보장할 수 있는 방안을 모색하는 컨퍼런스도 개최되고 있는 것으로 알고 있습니다. 이 자리에서 심도 있는 토론이 진행되길 기대합니다. 기자 여러분의 기사 한 줄, 사진 한 장, 영상 하나가 세상을 바꾸는 힘입니다. 여러분이 보고 느끼시는 대한민국의 평화 통일에 대한 의지를 세계에 널리 전해주실 것을 부탁드립니다. 끝으로 다시 한번 2015년 세계 기자대회 개막을 축하드리며 이번 행사가 여러분께 아름답고 보람있는 추억으로 오래 남게 되기를 기원하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your meaningful messages to journalists who have gathered here. Now, next up is Mr. Jim Bumela, who is the president of the International Federation of Journalists, who will give us his congratulatory address. President Bumela, you're invited to come up to the platform, please. He came a long way from the United Kingdom to Korea to celebrate and partake in today's gathering. Thank you for your attendance here.
Right. Good morning, dear colleague and friends and Excellency. I bring you the warmest greetings and good wishes for a successful conference from the International Federation of Journalists, its Executive Committee, and its 170 affiliates representing 600 journalists worldwide. I'm indeed truly honored to have been asked to join you today at this momentous event commemorating 70 years of division. And I wish also to pay tribute to President Park Chung-roo for the enormous contribution he's put in and his efforts to make the Association of Journalists at the center of the fight for social justice and professional rights in Korea. And every time I come here, I find a strong and vibrant union dedicated to the cause of journalism and to the cause of international solidarity. And it can't be a more difficult time for journalism. When I came here a couple of years ago, speaking from this same rostrum, I tried to lift the veil on the crisis of the economic model of newspaper, which started to decimate US media and reaching in some places a meltdown proportion. Media everywhere were in turmoil, and in the new media landscape, technologies started changing journalism beyond recognition. Today, the huge global conversation is not just about the future of journalism, but about the very physical survival of journalists in some country. Challenges facing journalists and growing deeper beyond the crisis of economic model and the existential threat to newspapers. In almost every corner of the globe, journalists are targeted, brutalized, and sometimes done to death by the enemies of press freedom. Some say they may have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, but we know journalists have a duty to be on the spot when news is in the making. Every year, the International Federation of Journalists publishes detail of the killed journalists. As Parker said, last year, 118 journalists died. And we do it because these deaths are more than just statistics. They are our friends and colleagues who have a duty, who have dedicated their lives to and paid the ultimate price for their work as journalists. We don't just remember them and pay our respect, but we also protest relentlessly and expose the shameful failure of governments to properly investigate and prosecute the killers and lead the fight for justice. This time, however, there were distinct periods where the sheer ferocity of the targeting of journalists is making them the most dangerous in memory for journalists. Long has gone the days where journalists were welcomed by non-state actors because they guaranteed coverage of their activity, or raising a white flag and writing TV in masking tapes on a vehicle might help keep one safe. At the beginning of this year, a snapshot lasting no more than a couple of weeks gave a measure of what's happening to journalists the world over. I referred to it in my introduction to the brochure to this conference, and I must repeat it because it encapsulates so well what journalists are going through. In a matter of days, at the beginning of January, 10 journalists were gunned down in Paris in the attack on Charlie Hebdo, with numerous others jailed or harassed elsewhere as a result. Japanese journalist Kenji Goto was beheaded by the Islamic State in northern Syria. 5 journalists died in an ambush in South Sudan. Radio journalists in eastern Afghanistan were shot dead by unknown gunmen. Journalist Marmorito Lim in the Philippines was shot in the face. Decapitated body of Jose Cerezo, a Mexican journalist, was missing since January 2nd, was found. Seymour Hazi, a journalist in Azerbaijan, jailed for 5 years for hooliganism. 14 newspapers confiscated by Sudan National Intelligence Security Services before they even reached the newsstand. The dozens or so journalists still jailed in Egypt after 4 years since the revolution. Sergei Nikolaev, senior photographer of Segodnia, killed in the artillery attack near Donetsk airport. Or the takeover by armed militia in Yemen of newspapers which they started producing after kicking out the journalists. In fact, a staggering, grim toll. In the first 2 months of 2015, the IFJ has already listed over a quarter of the total number of deaths in the previous years. And this is without counting the minor but still important acts to coerce journalists, be they attacks, abuse, harassment, and more recently, surveillance by state agencies or the erosion of freedom on the internet. Nowhere is there an authority that can count with accuracy journalists in jail or those in exile having to flee their country to avoid harm. And we in the International Federation of Journalists and our member union is a partner in this endeavor, see it as our mission to document, expose, advocate, lobby and campaign to stop this killing and attacks against journalists. And as a federation of trade unions, we can only count on the sense of solidarity of all our members worldwide to initiate collective action to produce change. And the loss of media lives on this scale seen in the last few years is hard to bear. And it cries out for more action by international institutions such as the United Nations to force governments to pay more attention to the safety crisis facing journalists and media. UNESCO is the UN's specialized agency with a mandate to defend and promote freedom of expression and its corollary, free press freedom. And it agrees with us that the question of the safety of journalists and how to combat impunity is a fundamental prerequisite for achieving freedom of expression and democracy. And I thank the organizers for dedicating a session on this on Wednesday in Busan. Sadly, journalists working in dangerous conditions feel isolated and abandoned by the very international institution created to protect their rights. And it is left to us and our organization to speak out forcefully for press freedom and push back against member states that seek to block international institutions from fulfilling their mandate and enforcing international laws. Can I end by congratulating all of you for being here to make this conference a success, and I wish you good luck in your deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bumela. I'm sure all the journalists present here, including myself, will work toward protecting the freedom of journalism. Thank you. And through your acclamation, you have adopted a declaration of World Journalists for Peaceful Unification of Korea and Freedom of Speech, proposed by Mr. Park Jong-yu, who is the president of the Journalists Association in Korea. Please allow me to read the declaration once again, placed on your desk. Declaration of World Journalists for Peaceful Unification of Korea and Freedom of Speech. Korea is the only divided country in the world. North and South Korea have been in military conflict against each other along the DMZ, or demilitarized zone, since the armistice of the Korean War in 1953. While the continuing dialogue efforts between the two Koreas consummated in the promise to seek peaceful coexistence and prosperity through the summit talks in 2000 and 2007, the dialogue has come to a standstill again, leaving the tension on the Korean peninsula unresolved. Reconciliation and cooperation between the two Koreas and peace on the Korean peninsula are an undeniable challenge of the time. Based on this understanding and marking the 70th anniversary of the Korean independence and division of Korea, 100 journalists from 60 countries who participated in the World Journalists Conference 2015 wish for a new spring of peace and unification of the Korean peninsula. In the meantime, terrorist attacks and brutal violence against media and journalists have been continued, as we saw from attack on Charlie Hebdo, a French weekly magazine. In particular, the threat and danger faced by journalists on conflict areas are beyond imagination. In 2014 alone, more than 100 journalists lost their lives in these troubled regions. Terrorist attacks against media and journalists are not tolerated under any reasons, because freedom of speech and freedom of expression are irreplaceable values that were achieved by blood and sweat of humankind. While the participants of the World Journalists Conference 2015 have different nationality, gender, skin color, and ideology, we all as one pledge ourselves to create a free and peaceful community and fulfill our responsibility as journalists to bring out the truth. April 13th, 2015, participants of the World Journalist Conference. Thank you very much. It would be greatly appreciated if you'd kindly express your congratulations on the adoption of the declaration with another round of applause. And now is the time for the introduction of Korea. I assume that this is the first visit for many of you, but I'm sure others have visited this country before. And Korea is a country where you can encounter full of passion, traditional beauty, and highly advanced technologies everywhere. Also, you can find Korean Peninsula divided by the North and South Koreas. This year, we'll speak about the passion for unification louder than any other time as we mark the 70th anniversary of its liberation and division. Let's watch a video clip together.
Working together with all peoples to create a brighter future. Open-minded and filled with enthusiasm. With several thousand years of history, Korea is a cultural hub in East Asia. Making its mark on history with culture and technological creativity. Contributing to the international community. Sharing with the world and working towards a peaceful and harmonious future. Serving as a bridge connecting people around the world. Take another look at Korea. A new era of hope, a new wave of the future. Overcoming historic hardships to become a prosperous country. In 1945, Korea was granted liberation but suffered absolute poverty. Then the Korean War left the nation devastated and dependent on international aid. But within only a few decades, Korea has risen out of the ashes of war to create the miracle on the Han River. This miracle is Korea's explosive economic growth, founded on strong national willpower, hard work, unity, and skill, which have long been a part of Korean culture. Korea has embraced new ideas and cultures with open arms and has created its own new culture. Korean products, technology, and culture have captured the imagination of many around the world. Today, Koreans want to share their economic development strategy with other countries to make a greater contribution to the global community. Korea is laying the foundation for the next phase of development. A new leadership began in Korea with the election of Northeast Asia's first female president. She is working to ease tensions and conflicts in Asia to nurture international peace and cooperation.
한국에만 대박이 아니라 동북아 주변국 모두에게도 대박이 될 수 있다고 생각을 합니다.
In the future, a reunified Korea will strive for peace across Northeast Asia and for the revitalization of the global economy. Transcending differences in language, custom, and ideology, Korea will foster friendships and share all it has to offer with all nations and peoples. Korea will contribute to resolving problems and struggles faced by the international community and work to build peace and co-prosperity. Dynamic and passionate. Affectionate and humane. Free and unique. Harmonious and peaceful. Creative and technologically innovative. Korea is working for a brighter future. That's the Korean style.
Well, I hope that was an opportunity for you to know better about Korea and anticipate for your stay here in Korea as well. And now I present with you some more cultural contents we commit with 장구춤 and 사물놀이 performance. Please enjoy an exotic, exciting melody and rhythm of Korea's traditional tunes. First, we have the 설장구춤, which is a traditional music performance where you can enjoy dynamic movement and feel the vibe. was indeed an exciting performance full of a unique and cheerful rhythm of traditional Korean music. Immediately following is Hamulnori performance, which will present you with dynamic folk music of Korea with 4 different traditional instruments. This cheerful and exciting performance might awaken your instinct to dance, and if you do want to, please stand up and dance to rhythm. Enjoy the show. Thank you all very much. And that was a great show by the Samulnori band. Let me explain a little more about the band. It's like a marching band or cheerleaders back in when Korea was in the agricultural society in the era, if you wanted some background information on this type of music. And now you're invited to proceed to the group photo session with our opening ceremony already coming to an end. And before the photo session, I would like to make some house announcements. At 11:20, right after this photo session, you're expected to listen to a special lecture by Vice Minister Cho Tae-yeol of the Foreign Affairs Ministry. This lecture will be given at this place right here, and after that lecture, we'll be moved to the National Press Club, which is on the opposite side of this hall. And at noon, you will participate in the luncheon held by the Vice Minister Jo. After lunch, you're expected to return here for the Conference 1, which will start at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Please remember this place and time for your business today. Thank you very much. And now you're invited to proceed here for the photo session. And for those of you who you think you're a bit taller than others, please stand in the back row while the others may stand in the front row. Please proceed to the platform, please.